recorded in the big Studio 1, and their preferred studio was Studio 2. But I managed to walk around and have a look in the studio and play on the piano and go in the old famous mixing room.
Welcome to the Need to Know Music Show with me, Ronan McManus, here on Switchbox TV. Today I'm joined by a bass player in the legendary punk bands Chelsea and Sham 69, who was diagnosed with HIV in 1989 and decided to put together charity projects started in 1995, and it's fair to say it's grown more legs than a millipede. 25 years later, it's a film and a double album called Sex, Drugs and HIV. Please welcome Matt Sargent. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. So yeah, I was trying to properly research Sex, Drugs and HIV, but there's so much to it. I don't think I could. I mean, it was just every time you listen to it, there's more stuff you hear. So so I didn't have enough. If I rescheduled this for next year, I wouldn't have enough time to get through it all. It's such an amazing project. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of how it started and kind of a little bit about just its beginnings, really, first?
Sure. Well, I was, like you said, I was diagnosed with HIV in 1989, and I had this crazy idea to record an album with a load of my friends and people who I'd met on the road, and to do the album for charity and give something back to the charities that helped me through my sort of journey through life. And it just kind of grew. It was only meant to be one album, but it ended up being a double album of 40 tracks, and the whole project was filmed as well. And it took about 16 years to complete. So there was a lot of footage and stuff to sort through.
And just to say, sort of 40 tracks doesn't really do it justice, because you've got so much crammed in, so many people crammed into those 40 tracks.
That's right. Yeah.
There's so much going on. I mean, I'm talking about, you're hearing there's so many musicians on it, and each track is there's a lot that's very dense. There's a lot of stuff going on, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, there's over 200 guest musicians on there. So it was a different musician on each track. There's a different drummer on each track, different singer. So it was like a fantasy league football for musicians, and really good fun to do.
But it must have been a nightmare to mix. I would have thought, if you got all that recording done, it's like, right, okay, how do we pull this together to something that sounds like one thing? But it does flow as an album.
Yeah, we kind of mixed things. We went, if the guitarist had done, say, 5 solos, we kind of picked the best one, so we kind of eliminated things as we went, and we knew which bits we were keeping, and we kept kind of strict track sheets of who played on what song and what they'd done. So it was all sort of kept tight, so we knew what we were doing next time we went in to load the tracks up again.
And it's like your background is playing bass in punk bands, but there's so many different types of music on this. It's not just a punk album, is it?
That's right. I mean, there's well, being in a punk band, and you're writing songs for an album or whatever. To put forward a heavy metal track or a ska track or a reggae track, it's kind of like the rest of the band probably wouldn't like it. So you as a writer, you kind of have all these tracks lying around, and it was a great opportunity to kind of use them all up. Yeah, there's lots of different stuff on there: R&B, ska, rock, reggae, prog rock, bit of new age stuff. So yeah, we kind of tried to get a bit of everything on there, really.
And sort of, I mean, at what point did you at any point did you feel like it was getting a bit out of control?
No, I mean, it just kind of grew. I thought it was going to be about 15 songs. I thought that's what we'd end up with. But like I say, we ended up with 40. But yeah, I mean, some of the days were a bit chaotic with musicians, but sometimes we'd have 10 people in the studio a day. And there was only 3 of us in the studio. There's me and Dave Goodman and the cameraman. So on busy days, just answering the door was a nightmare. Especially if people pop into the off license or whatever. So you just, busy times.
It feels like it sounds like it's so much fun, and it does actually. That comes across in the music. You can hear there's a real vibe to it, and there's a real kind of energy in there, and that must have been important. And everyone, I suppose, came to it with the sort of same frame of mind to kind of create something special. Did you feel that when it was recording that energy was coming off it, because it comes through in the album I listened to?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. For a start, you have all the different musician styles and their own unique way of playing things. So you have that to play with anyway. But then you just pick up vibes. It's like when Polystyrene was in the studio. I mean, Polly's a good friend of mine. Well, she was a good friend of mine. We were neighbours, but I always kind of had this spiritual vibe off her. So you kind of got these things from musicians. Robbo from Thin Lizzy, when he popped down, it was kind of maximum rock and roll, and you got all these things going on, and it was that was part of the thing. And I think with a lot of these charity albums, you buy them, and but you can't see them. But the beauty of this is because it was all filmed, you actually see the behind the scenes of people turning up and hanging out in the kitchen, jamming with each other, and then recording their parts in the studio.
How many hours of footage did you have? You must have had a hell of a lot.
Yeah, I think I ended up with about 180 hours of footage. Wow. So that all had to be chopped down into the usable bits, and all the out of focus stuff all ended up on the cutting room floor, and we squeezed it down into the DVD box sets, which runs about 28 hours.
Wow.
Which seems a lot, but with 40 songs, if you kind of imagine each song has a 25-minute documentary, so everyone gets their 5 minutes kind of thing.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, it was just, what was it like when it was over? Did you know when it was over, or did you kind of have a period of going back and tweaking? And did you have a moment where you went, okay, this is done now?
Yeah, that was the moment I walked out of Abbey Road Studios with the mastered disc, and that was it. It was done. All the start points for the songs were all in the right place, and so that was it. But the second half of it was the visual side of it, the DVDs. Once I'd finished the album, recording all the tracks and putting that out, I had to get the films together, which took another 5 or 6 years to do. So 25th anniversary of the first recording session was the perfect time to do it, I think.
And I've just got this vision of you coming out the studio with the master, taking your shoes off, walking across the zebra crossing. There's a massive smile on your face, and just thinking, "Wow, that was hell of a journey."
True. Yeah.
So, you talk about. What was it like being in Abbey Road?
Well, I've been to Abbey Road a couple of times, but it's always a buzz going in there. I think I was doing the mastering in I think it was Studio 6 at the upstairs, but obviously the Beatles recorded in the big Studio 1, and their preferred studio was Studio 2. But I managed to walk around and have a look in the studio and go and play on the piano and go in the old famous mixing room. So it was good buzz.
You sort of hear about a vibe coming out the place. I spoke to Steve Harley on this show, and he talked about recording Come Up and See Me there, and he said there was a sort of there was a vibe in the place, and
there is. Yeah.
Did you feel that was feeding into what you were doing up there?
I think with the mastering, it was different because obviously with Abbey Road, they had all that history of all the artists that have been there, and of course the Beatles. But the HIV project was recorded at Mandala Studios in Gypsy Hill and finished at Panther Studios in Reigate. So all the vibes and things were there, and it was just the actual mastering that was done at Abbey Road. But yeah, of course, still going there is just a trip in itself.
Absolutely. And some of the personnel that you had on it, you mentioned polystyrene, and there were some real legends on this
Yeah, I mean,
This is your chance to name drop a few. Here. So that's what I'm asking. Don't hold back. This is a
I hate doing it because there's so many people on there, and it's like, oh, you didn't mention so and so. But maybe you're the best one to do it. But I mean, there's so many people, and there's lots of punk musicians, rock musicians, people from Iron Maiden, Tony Hadley, Spandau Ballet, Charlie, UK Subs, musicians from the Ruts. Just the list goes on and on and on. I can't think of the top of my head. It's just so many people.
It really is a who's who, isn't it? It must have been amazing to sort of to get the response that you did, because you obviously had a lot of people.
I'll tell you, doing the spell check on the album sleeve was a nightmare. I'm sure I got one or two people's names wrong still.
Yeah, Tony Hodley is on there. I noticed that. I mean, it really is an amazing thing, and it's for a great cause as well. So tell us a little bit about the charities.
Well, the theme, sex, drugs and HIV, obviously HIV, go to an HIV charity, and that'd be Terence Higgins Trust, who were my first port of call when I was diagnosed. The sex theme was the rape crisis, and so we decided to give to Rape Crisis UK, and also another charity called Survivors, which deals with male rape. And the drugs side of it was decided to go to Release, which is a drugs charity, who they offer advice to people who for like syringe exchange and things like that. So it was a theme: sex, drugs, and HIV.
Fantastic. All great causes. Fantastic stuff. And just a little bit about yourself, really, a little bit about your background and where it all sort of started for you, because you've played in two of the biggest punk bands, legendary punk bands out there. And so, what was it like? What sort of age did you get into music, and where did you grow up? And was it musical upbringing?
Well, I mean, I started young. I mean, I was in the local church choir. I mean, our house was literally about 200 yards away from the local church choir, the local church in Leeds, where I was brought up. So I started there singing. And when I went to school, my dad was a cellist, so he wanted me to be classically trained. So I took up cello, did that for a couple of years. That progressed on to double bass, electric bass, and there you go. That's how I got into it.
I never thought a bass player at Chelsea started on a cello.
Well, yeah, I mean, the double bass was cool, but it was just a nightmare getting it on the bus home, from school after the lessons. So to practice all my stuff on my electric bass.
So what sort of age did you do your first gigs, and what sort of venues you playing? What sort of band was it?
I guess I was about 15, and it was a school band I put together, and I think my first gig was at the pub called the Cedars in Clapham Common, and just playing places like the Half Moon in Herne Hill, local gigs, and I think it was around 91 that I joined Chelsea punk band, and did a few tours with them, did a couple of albums, and then left and joined Sham 69. Was with them for about 12 years, did a couple of albums, and did a few other things. Played with the Beat for a little while, played with Splodgeness Abounds for 20 years. I was only supposed to do one or two gigs with them, and then still in the band. So played with Honest John. Did a couple of albums with him. So keep busy. Like to keep busy. And we just recorded a new Chelsea album. So I'm back in Chelsea again, and we've done a new album called Meanwhile Gardens. So that'll be out on the 28th of May.
Oh, fantastic! That'd be brilliant. Just in time for the bank holiday weekend. Be nice.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, we'll certainly put a link to that in the description, so people can go and check that out. And but you must have some great stories from the Chelsea days and from the Sham 69 days and all the other. I mean, you've gigged a lot. I mean, that scene around the sort of the sort of pub venue type scene around London. I mean, I've played on that myself, and there's some real legendary venues that all the big bands have played. You know, whenever you go into these venues, and there's posters on the wall of like massive names that it's where they all started. I mean,
like the 100 Club and
yeah.
I remember playing the Marquee back in the day as well, and all those sort of vibey places. And you know that you're standing on the stage that Keith Moon had been on, or
the Half Moon in Putney's another one, isn't it? I mean, Half Moon in Putney is like, that's just like there's such rich history in that place.
Yeah, and you pick up the vibes, don't you, when you're there.
It's exciting, I think. I mean, when I started playing those venues with my brothers, there was four brothers in the band together, and we just went around and played all of those places. And there was the King's Head and Fulham, and there used to be the Red Line in Brentford, is now McDonald's. So there's been a few casualties of venues over the years, but I mean, it was just such an exciting time to get around. And when you start to feel the history of these venues, I don't think there's a city in the world quite like it in terms of the amount of legends that have come through those, the amount of venues and the diversity of areas around London.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I mean, especially with the scene. I mean, places happen for a few years, and then they kind of disappear, and new places open up. But I kind of that's kind of the way it is, I guess. It's always been the same. Yeah.
Have you got a particular standout moment from your time with Chelsea or with Sham 69 or with Splodgers and Bounds? What's a kind of a good rock and roll story you can regale us with? That's it's not getting you in trouble.
I always get asked these things. My mind goes completely blank. I mean, I'm lucky because I had always had a video camera because I've been doing the HIV session, so I always had a video camera, and I took it on the road with me, and I kind of managed to film these tours that I've done over the years. So especially over lockdown, I've kind of been editing these tour diaries that I've done, over the years, dating back to 30 years, some of them.
Wow.
So it's great, and there's some great memories, and some funny things that you probably forget because over the years you play the same venue 2 or 3 times, maybe 6 times, and it kind of all gets mishmashed into one, So
absolutely. And sometimes a good time is had, and memory is if you remember it, you weren't there, kind of stuff. Yeah.
You kind of rely on other people's memories, to go, oh, yeah.
You're not sure whether you had that memory or whether you just pieced it together from someone else's story.
Yeah.
But so have you got any plans for that footage to kind of get out there and for these tour diaries to be? It feels like
I've put them up on YouTube.
Oh, you've got? Oh, they are brilliant.
Yeah, I put them up on YouTube. Just because, I mean, some of them are 20 minutes long. The Splodger one at the Isle of Wight when we went with the Wurzel from Motorhead. I mean, they're 20-minute just gems,
Yeah.
And some of the longer ones, when I was on tour with Splodge, we'd go on tour for 6 weeks. Same with Chelsea as well. So they're kind of there's a lot of footage in those. So it's about an hour and a half long, some of those. But again, you capture some really funny moments, and you see the band, what we're like off stage.
Oh, fantastic! That's the sort of stuff that people love, isn't it? Getting that behind the scenes.
Yeah,
you wouldn't have got that, especially back in the day. I mean, now you sort of feel like with camera phones and all that kind of stuff, that there's going to be more access to that footage. But from those days, it wasn't really anyone doing that stuff really, unless they were doing a specific tour documentary or something which happened.
Yeah, it was rarely. Like if you've been filmed, it was kind of something quite special. But like you say, everyone's got cameras and stuff nowadays. But I mean, there's big chunks of, especially with the Chelsea history, missing over the years because not many people had cameras, And I think sometimes it's probably a good thing because everyone's staring at the cameras, Put them down, watch the gig.
Yeah, that is one of the things that you do see people filming the gig and think you're not actually enjoying, you're actually watching the gig at the time, you're filming it so you can watch it back at a later date. It feels a bit funny, but
it's so annoying. I went to see the Rolling Stones a couple of years back, and you're just trying to see over this sort of like sea of people just holding their mobile phones up and think, just watch the gig.
Yeah, I don't do any of that stuff. I have to say, I kind of have this very kind of militant attitude towards enjoying the moment, and
exactly.
And then, because what's the point? You bought a ticket for that moment, so enjoy the moment. And then if other people, if you want to show it to other people, it's tough. They should have bought a ticket.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, no, it shouldn't be the way, but yeah. So that was, so there's been some, you've had such a great career, and what's you talked about the new Chelsea album. So what have we got to look forward to on that? I mean, what's the sort of, what was the approach? Is it a very traditional kind of album, or have you pushed about? You know, what's been happening with that?
Well, it's our third album in the last 6 years or whatever. So we've been sort of doing one every 2 or 3 years, and it's got all the Chelsea trademarks on there, all the little jingles and Jeans Ooh Yeahs and all the usual Chelsea stuff. And we actually kind of started writing it in 2019. We were on the road doing the Rebellion tour, and we started writing tracks for that. And we were due to start recording it, I think March, April last year. And obviously with everything that was going on, that kind of got postponed. So it was, I think it was about 4 months before we could get in the studio. And I think we'd only had 2 rehearsals. So usually we have at least 6, 8 rehearsals, so we know what we're doing before we go in the studio. But we didn't really rehearse.
Didn't have the luxury of that. No, but well, I suppose you're kind of getting a more your instant reaction to those songs, as in what you're playing. You're kind of getting a more raw.
Yeah, I mean, we demoed them beforehand. I'd gone up to Nick, the guitarist place, and we sat down and demoed them. So the drummer Steve knew what he was doing, and then Gene just comes in and does his thing. But it was a different format, because we weren't all in the studio at the same time because of the restrictions.
Yeah, it must have been a really irritating timing. Then the pandemic, the kind of obviously the whole music business shut down, and my own band's album got postponed. That's actually out in July now, and we've kind of released some of the singles digitally. We feel like we've released most of it by now, because we've had a year delay. So what was that like? Then you got to the point where you were going to get in, you were going to start recording it, had all planned, and it all got ruined. And so how did you spend that year?
Well, we
obviously doing the tour diaries, you've been doing that, but
well, when we first went into lockdown, March last year, I mean, basically we didn't go out for 3 months, 3 or 4 months, so we didn't see anyone or whatever. So for all that time, we just didn't do anything. And then when we found out there was restrictions that were lifted and the studio were allowing people back in, then we thought, let's get back in there and do it whilst we can.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So we did, and then we kind of finished it. I think we spent about 4 weeks doing all the bits and pieces, because again it was done slightly differently, so we had to do kind of them all separately. So after we'd done that, we were going to leave it for a few weeks, give your ears a break, and then go back and mix it. And then of course second lockdown happened. So we were postponed for another 3 months before we could get back in the studio and mix it and master it. So
someone's trying to tell you something.
Yeah. Well, I just hope it's worth the wait.
Well, I mean, everyone's now looking forward to feel like we're finally going to be coming out of lockdown. We're finally going to be getting back playing live. What are the plans? So. What are the plans for you guys? You have anything booked in the diary?
Yeah, I've got a couple of gigs coming up. Again, it's just whether they happen. But the ones for the diaries, the 10th of July, I'm playing the New Cross Inn with Spogenous Bounds, and the following week on the 18th of July, I'll be playing New Cross Inn with Chelsea.
Oh, wicked! Brilliant. So you can just leave the stuff set up.
Yeah, well, even better than that, they've got all the house gear, so we just turn up with our guitars and play.
I was meant to be playing there during it was the end of last year, so it was just when that brief sort of 2 weeks when pubs opened then closed again. It was just literally the week I was meant to be playing with a band called The Lagan, playing like my band was supporting them, Brand New Zero supporting The Lagan, and that just got cancelled. So I don't know when that's going to happen at some point, I think, but. That was going to be my first time playing the New Cross Inn, and then it sort of got blown out of the water by another lockdown, you know. So
COVID,
yeah.
I mean, Rebellion Festival got cancelled last year, so we've just found out it's been cancelled again this year. So and we were all kind of looking forward to that. So I think everyone's another year without a big festival, because I mean the thing is with those big festivals, everyone flies in from all over the world to go to that. So you know, it's like an annual event. So I can understand it until we've kind of got a bit more of a grip of this COVID-19.
I think there's kind of been some insurance issues for some of them as well, in terms of insurance companies being reluctant to back stuff that's maybe not going to happen. We're just going to hopefully, as everything opens up, there'll be a few gigs going on. Let it all warm up again. Let everybody get the calluses back on the end of their fingers. Get the voices to be able to do more than 2 songs at a time, and but maybe we'll look into end of the year. I've got a load of gigs coming up. I don't know how. I'm just not going to be match fit. I know I'm not going to be match fit. So it's going to be a matter of I don't know.
When's your lot of gigs coming?
Well, I'm just doing some local stuff here in Watford. So I do like an open mic night, and that's starting next Wednesday. So as we speak, so we're talking now on the 12th of May. So it's next Wednesday. This is a Wednesday we're recording this. So so by the time this goes out, there should be gigs happening in and around London. So it sort of feels like, and then but restrictions aren't fully gone until end of June. So then it sort of feels too good to be true.
21st of June, isn't it? The summer solstice.
Yeah, that is going to be. I feel too good to be true. There's going to be no restrictions. There's going to be maskless and in pubs, in clubs, in venues, kind of able to be near other human beings, and it sort of feels a bit too good to be true at this stage. But hopefully all goes well, and your 2 New Cross Inn gigs with different bands are going to happen, so that's going to be brilliant. You must be really looking forward to getting up there again and doing that.
It's been a long time. Yeah, I think the last gig I did was beginning of March last year. So it's been a long time since I've played. I mean, I know that I can still play because I did the album.
So you're not going to turn up with your cello by mistake, are you?
Or a flute. No, but I mean, getting gig fit, as you know, it's. I mean, for me, I can rehearse for 4 hours in a rehearsal room and not feel anything. But I can do a gig. I do a gig. I'm on stage for an hour and I'm aching. I've got, so it's like you kind of, really physically throw yourself about when you do a gig. So
it is a completely different thing, and people don't quite realise how much the adrenaline, everything goes into it, and you just like it is.
Yeah, just my neck muscles from doing the bass player thing.
Gonna build up those bass player muscles again. Yeah. Fantastic. So where can people check out the Sex, Drugs and HIV project?
It's you can check it out on the website. There's which is www.sexdrugsandhiv.com, and we've got a page on there. We've got the shop page. You can get the CD, the album, and the 8-disc DVD is available there as well.
And people can keep in touch with you on social media, can they?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. You can track me down. I've got a few pages, Matt Sargent one, or the Chelsea one, or Sham. You'll catch me on one of them.
And the new Chelsea album, what's it called?
Meanwhile Gardens.
Excellent. That's out in, did you say July?
That's out on the 28th of May.
28th of May, sorry, 28th of May.
It's
fantastic.
In a few weeks. A few people, the pledges have all got their copies early, so they're all raving about it already. and making everyone jealous.
Excellent. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions we always ask on the show. One of them is dream gig. So basically, you're on first with whatever lineup you like to choose. You're on first, and then there's a band after you, and there's a headline band, anybody from history. And you get to choose the venue. Wherever the venue is, it's packed. So you don't have to worry about selling tickets. You can be whoever you want. It's your gig. Who's on your dream gig?
I think I'd like to play the Hammersmith Apollo or the Hammersmith Odeon, because yes. I haven't done that venue, so that's one to tick off the list. So yeah, maybe have to play there, and maybe a band before me. I don't know, probably someone not as good as me, so it might make me look better.
You can go on first. And put two bands after you if you like.
Oh right, okay. Make them look better.
Yeah, we asked this question to one of the Swedish rock metal bands. Who were like, "How is it a dream gig if we're on first?" It's like, I was like, that's too like. Well, the idea is, you're choosing people you don't think you're better than, But anyway, so who would be your other two bands? Come
on. I think I'd like kind of like a mishmash band, like something like the HIV Project, like maybe Iggy with don't know, do they have to still be alive? You could have Sid Vicious on bass with Keith Moon on drums, maybe.
Oh man,
something like that.
So you're basically going to do what you did with the HIV Project, but live with musicians that are no longer with us, so you could just have your dream lineup.
You could do, yeah. And,
like Live Aid.
Yeah. And then maybe a headlining act, someone kind of like Blue Oyster Cult.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, the Hammersmith Odeon, as it was known, was my first ever gig I ever went to, and my big brother being Elvis Costello, it was his gig, so we were only kids going. And it was supported by the Pogues. So officially the first ever band I saw live was the Pogues. So not saying it affected me at all, but I did end up in an Irish band after that, Irish rock punk band. So yeah, it was
same thing to me. I first ever gig was the Police at Leeds Queen's Hall, and the support band were the Bell Stars. So really the Bell Stars were the first band.
Real first band, yeah, exactly, yeah. Brilliant. And then the other question I was going to ask is recommendations. So this is the Need to Know Music Show. We always ask for a recommendation of somebody that people may not have heard of that they need to know.
Well, I always mention a band called Radio Dead Ones, the buddies of mine from Berlin. Kind of a sleazy rock and roll band, and I love those guys. They covered one of my tracks, and they're just young spunky guys playing rock and roll, and you get the chance to check out Radio Dead Ones.
We'll put a link to them as well into the description, and then a link to all the stuff that we've discussed today, so people can check out all the different things that we've talked about. All the links will be down there in the description if you check it now. And just like to say thanks very much, Matt, for coming on. I mean, what an amazing story the Sex, Drugs and HIV Project has been. And I mean, as I said before, I mean, you can listen to it for weeks on end and hear new things all the time. It's just such an amazing album to listen to, and it all flows, and it's considering how it was recorded, it's a massive achievement, and you should be very, 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 very proud of yourself. And it's for some great causes as well. So fantastic thing. And what a legacy you've left behind. Hopefully there's more stuff to do yet before you pop your clogs, but what a
always something to do.
So good luck with the new Chelsea album, with the Spodge gigs and everything that's going on, and hopefully we'll see you on a stage. Hopefully I can get to a venue with no mask and come down and say hello and shake your hand and give you a hug.
That'd be great, yeah.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Lots of catching up with people to do.
Absolutely. Lots of who are you again? Yeah, lots of that. I used to know a guy who looked like you. Yeah. Fantastic. Listen, thanks, Matt. Good luck with everything, and we'll speak to you and hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, nice one, Ron. Thanks for having us on the show.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Appreciate it.